Welcome to 5 and 5 from the one-stop co-op shop, where I discuss 5 key elements of a game in about 5 minutes. I'm Michael Kelly, and today I'm reviewing Trudvang Legends, the solo and cooperative adventure game from CMON. And no disclaimer for this one, I played with my friend Jerry's copy of the game. Trudvang had a pretty hairy development cycle where they basically designed a large portion of the game over again. Did it turn out well in the end? Let's find out and get to the list. First, my number 5 is focused on the way that the game board and locations evolve with you. So you can kind of see here that each of these little spaces on the board is depressed and has a sleeve kind of built into it. And as the game goes, you'll be sliding things in here to unlock special bonuses or penalties for certain locations, to even add in new phases to the game. And it has sort of a nice feeling of being legacy-ish without being a legacy, without actually destroying anything, and a lot of the times the choices you make and kind of the branching things you do or the side quests you complete will be the things that fill these in, so your board might look a little bit different than somebody else's. But we go from a pro to a full-on con for my number 4, which is leveling up in the game. At first, when I started playing the campaign, I was like, yes, this is awesome, and it was a full pro for me, and then it just lost luster as we played more. So the main way you level is by defeating enemies. You'll take the starting cards in your character's unique deck, which is an 8-card deck generally, and you'll upgrade them to level 2 versions and then eventually to legendary versions. But the first disappointment as this went along is that really what usually happens is that the numbers on them might increase by like a single point. So it's not really that exciting to unlock new things. It's not like you feel like you get new tools. But another side of leveling up is that you can get these items, and those are really cool. They give you cool abilities, but in an interesting, it's what I'll call it, a design choice. Whenever you use an item, it goes to the bottom of your stack of items, and now you have a new one on top that you have to use. I do fully appreciate that this forces players to use their items consistently. You can't just kind of rely on one and abuse it. But on the negative side, getting more items, especially weak items, actually feels like a fully punishment on your character instead of a boon. And how many adventure games make you feel bad for getting items because they clog up your deck and they become something you have to like use just to get rid of it? Now, my number 3 is also a full-on con, but it's a bit of a spoiler, so if you want to jump ahead to my number 2, just use the timestamps. But to explain what I'm talking about, this is the consequence for death in the game. So what happens is when a player dies, you unlock this darkness card. And these cards will keep on leveling up with you the more you die and don't fix the death by the end of a scenario. But generally all they do is make one of the enemy types tougher, so you kind of have a poor get poorer system going on where like if you are not doing well, then enemies keep on getting stronger to make it more likely you will not do well in the future. But the only other effect of death is that you get a weird card added to your deck, which is not entirely bad, but that's a thing you have to get rid of to not trigger this darkness effect worsening. But once you've died the first time in a scenario and have one of those weird cards, there is basically almost zero penalty for dying again. You just miss your actions for that turn. And since it's just this thing getting worse and no other real penalty for dying, you can basically die infinitely. Now, if you're the kind of player who likes to just kind of push through an adventure and doesn't mind that kind of thing, and that you just want to see the story, like that's what you're here for, this might not bother you. But if you appreciate mechanics and like tension and things getting challenging, the fact that death has pretty much no meaning except for some annoyance and some grind is not a great look for the game. My number 2 is a mix, and that's focused on the story in the game. This is a very reading-heavy game. You'll read tons of times for each scenario. On the positive side, the writing is pretty good. The world building is pretty cool. I like the setting they've created and kind of like the Norse-inspired stuff. And it has pretty good branching, so like your choices do have some impact on the game. But on the negative side, for the world building, they sometimes throw out like words and terms that have no meaning to us and aren't explained at all, so that's a little bit intimidating for players. Also, the proofreading is not great. It's rare for me to read one of these entries without finding some mistakes, which might bother some players more than others. This game had a pretty rough development cycle, so that's not entirely surprising. But finally, I'm going to end on a high note for my number 1, which is the combat in the game. And how combat works is it's basically a varied push-your-luck mechanic. You draw 4 cards from your unique deck of 8, and they have different combinations of these elemental symbols that you need to put tokens on to be able to activate their power when you take your actions. And you draw 3 tokens from your bag at a time, and you can place them on any open spots for the indicated abilities. But if you have ones you can't place, they have to go down on this track down here. If you fill it up fully with 5 tokens, you have to stop drawing, and you get rewarded for stopping in the blue with a basic reward, and you can unlock others here, and you get punished for going all the way into the red. So you want to fill out your things as much as possible, and they combo together nicely sometimes and do kind of like cool little clash effects, but you also want to stop as early as you can. It's just a nice kind of consistently tense and exciting and fun mechanic. So overall, I can recommend Trudvang Legends to gamers who are looking for a light but fairly interesting narrative adventure. If you like nice world building and quick narrative sections mixed with a nice spice of choose your own adventure and branching narrative, I think this could be a lot of fun for you. And also, if you like push your luck mechanisms, like in things like Quacks of Quedlinburg, I think the combat will be really fun for you. But on the other hand, if you're looking for a game that's super polished, this one has a lot of rough edges. If you're looking for a game that has a lot of good tension, this one is basically lacking almost any tension once you see kind of how that kill mechanic works. And also, if you're looking for a really meaty mechanical experience, except for the combat, which is pretty cool but does get a bit repetitive, there's not much else here that's going to draw you in. And if you'd like to see the game in action and judge for yourself, Colin has one playthrough up already, maybe two by now. But thanks for watching, everybody. Good gaming, and I'll see you at the next stop.